Hi, me again, and a couple of things to talk about today. 3 different stories, which is unlike me at the minute. I haven't done one like that for ages, have I? This one stood out to me. I got a copy of it sent through to me this morning. I don't know if any of you out there have clocked it. The TV licence increase is an utter disgrace, say Lancashire residents who demand an end to archaic fee. Don't we all? Us in Essex, well, Spain at the minute, us in Essex feel exactly the same, people. But there was an interesting point in here, which is one of the reasons I wanted to mention it. A number of readers of the Lancashire Post and Blackpool Gazette admitted they do not pay for a TV licence, with many saying they prefer to stream content from Netflix, YouTube and other digital platforms. And that was right at the top of the article. Good for you. I knew the good people of Blackpool were sensible. I'm quite a fan of Blackpool, even more so now. And it goes on to say here as well, like proper information. Some have said it's time for the BBC to go fully commercial, adding it's probably on the rise to fund celebrities demanding big money on reality TV. Well, yeah, it's just salaries are what they are, sadly. And in the BBC's defence, which isn't something I do often, obviously, their salaries are lower than many commercial channels that they pay for, hang on, air quotes, talent. It's currently a criminal offence to watch, record, broadcast TV without a licence. That's even if you never watch a single BBC programme and it all goes to the BBC. Another resident said it's even less value for money now that the BBC has lost the FA Cup. BBC's lost everything, isn't it? But that is an important point. You know, as some of the other residents there said, you know, they don't need to pay it because they stream content from Netflix, YouTube and other digital platforms. If you're not watching anything that's being broadcast, you don't require it. I know I'm preaching to the converted a bit, but more people need to hear that, don't they? I reckon, and I've been saying it a while, that you can probably watch 90% of the stuff you'd watch anyway without paying the TV licence fee. So if you need to save money, or you want it to be a political stance, or whatever your reason for thinking about it is, you're only going to miss out on some BBC stuff. So you ain't going to be watching your EastEnders anymore, but that's not going to do you any harm anyway, is it? Right, the other one I had to talk about, BBC Radio Oxford staff staged 24-hour strike to protest cuts to local radio. I mean, I said it probably 2 years ago now, that if I worked at the BBC, I would be starting to look about for another position doing what I do at the BBC, because the cull is coming, and when there's loads of people on the market, your odds of getting the position are slimmer, aren't they? And the gravy train's starting to derail somewhat, and these are the people that hung on for dear life. Staff at BBC Oxford radio station on a 24-hour strike to protest plans to local radio. The strike began today. They're joining the National Union of Journalist members on strike at 30 stations across England. The strike comes following proposals announced by the BBC, which would see some local radio stations sharing programmes with neighbouring stations after 2 p.m. on weekdays and at weekends. Yep, that's what they're going to do. I mean, you think about it, how much it must cost just to provide local radio. That's why there's very few successful commercial local stations at the minute. They all got bought up by heart, didn't they? Essex FM I used to listen to, they got bought by heart. All of them did, didn't they? And just kind of amalgamated, and that's what the BBC is trying to do. It seems like they're trying to copy that business model, because you think the amount of buildings they must have around the country, and not just the talent, you know, you've got to have all the back office staff, you've got to have the IT infrastructure. There's a lot to it, and it must be a very expensive thing to run. And Heart have managed to make it successful by amalgamating everything into one and getting celebrity broadcasters to do it and being commercial, and they're quite successful at it, aren't they? And that's what the BBC is trying to do. So it's like here, like the needs and interest of people in Banbury and rural Oxfordshire are not the same as those in Reading and the Isle of Wight, and vice versa. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going to cut it. They're going to cut it. You pay for this through your licence fee, but these new proposals unfairly cheat people in Oxfordshire out of a local service. You're still going to get local news and local sports results, but the programming itself is going to be amalgamated into groups. So they're kind of putting a couple of counties together, that sort of thing. But after a couple of years of putting a couple of counties together, what are they going to do? They're going to build it all into one, aren't they? That's what's going to happen. They're trying to follow the heart business model, and I don't think you're going to stop it, because I don't think they can afford to do anything about it. All right, last one to talk about today. This was in the trade press. I just find these ones interesting, right? Because we all know BBC Studios is commercial, turns over a lot of money a year. You can look on Companies House and see how much money it turns over a year. And but they trade under the BBC name, and they want to be commercial. They own UK TV fully, that shows ads. They own BritBox International fully, which charges subscriptions. They sell shows to the streaming services all around the world for profit, trading under the BBC name. And this is one thing they've been doing a lot of recently. BBC Studios buys Aussie indie Warner. So Warner is an independent production company, which isn't anymore, because now it's owned by BBC Studios. But it will continue to trade under the name Warner, so that nobody knows it's BBC Studios. If you look into it, which I obviously have, because I'm sad like that, if you look into it, BBC Studios have been buying so many independent production companies, but letting them keep their name so that you don't know it's BBC. And they sell those shows to the BBC that you pay your license fee to, in addition to selling them all around the world and to streaming services. It's having your cake and eating it, isn't it? I don't have a problem with a company being commercial and profitable. Good for them. Make your own money. Brilliant. That's the way business is, right? And acquisitions and things like that, that's business, isn't it? But you can't trade under the BBC name if you want to be commercial. I'm sorry, you can't. And how are they getting away with having so many sub-companies? There's BBC Studios, BBC Production Limited, BBC Distribution. Have a look at Companies House. Just type in, go to the Companies House search, type in BBC Studios, go to people, and I think it's the company secretary. If you click that person, you will see a list longer than your arm of BBC related companies that are commercial and trading for profit. How is that right? How can they, with one arm, be saying we need to make all this money through selling shows and being commercial and charging subscriptions and all of that nonsense, and then the other hand saying, I want me 159 quid, soon to be more, a year? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, does it? So yeah, I'm just trying to get through all the bookmark stuff that I've had to talk about. Getting through it, it's like, oh, hang on, what's going on here? Hello? It's a good camera, this, but it doesn't like pointing into the sun. It kind of loses my face for some reason. So yeah, as you can see, I'm here at the hospital in Malaga. I haven't had a lot of time today to be making my videos because I'm working during the day and then I'm straight up here. So sadly, no nice views for you today. You get a car park. You get a car park instead. And then whilst he's having a little nap on my visit, I'll put this video together and upload it on hospital Wi-Fi. That seems to be my life for the next week or so. But anyway, I hope you're having a good start to the week. I've got a few more stories I want to talk about this week, so I'll keep you up to date. And hit all the buttons and everything. If you want to read the full versions of these articles, links below as always. While you're down there, leave your comment, hit the buttons, all that sort of stuff. So if you do that, hopefully I'll see you in another video again soon, when I'm in a more picturesque environment rather than the Spanish hospital car park. Ta-da.